Mr. President, it's Thursday, and even though we had a bit of a short week here in the Senate, it's one of my favorite times of the week here in the Senate because I get to talk about the Alaskan of the Week, which is a recognition we give to somebody who's doing something important in our state. I can see by the smile on the pages' faces, it's their favorite time of the week too. Because we talk about Alaska, talk about somebody who's making a difference. Now, maybe it's a difference just in their local community, maybe it's state, maybe it's nationwide. And, but what I really enjoy doing in this speech every week is not just highlighting my great state, and of course, we all think our states are great. I know the presiding officer thinks his state is great. And encourage people who are watching on TV or up in the gallery, come on up to Alaska. You'll have the trip of a lifetime, beauty, great fishing right now, wonderful scenery. But really, the reason you'll love it so much, it's the people. Strong, tough, resilient, wonderful people. And so that's what we do in terms of the Alaskan Week. We talk about the people. So, Mr. President, today I want to talk about someone very special, a woman who's become a good friend of mine named Kara Nelson. So she is our Alaskan of the Week. Now, Kara, she calls Juneau home, and sometimes our Alaskans of the Week are unsung heroes. Maybe they've been working on something for years, decades really, and not a lot of people know about what they're doing. Other times, their efforts go from hardly noticed to somebody is really noticed. And I would say Kara is somebody who's actually, over the last couple of years, really noticed. She's kind of a rock star in the state, and to be honest, she deserves the attention that she is giving. Kara does work with women who have been in trouble, who have struggled with the issues of addiction and have gone to prison sometimes for it, and working with women who are trying to get a new start in life. And there is nothing more important, I think, whether it's in Alaska or anywhere, Louisiana, anywhere in the country, to give people a new start. So a little bit about Kara, who has been generous enough to share her story openly, because it can be a difficult story to tell. She was born and raised mostly in Ketchikan, logging camps, she calls them, and she was a good student. She was a good athlete, got good grades, but then unfortunately, like too many of our young people today, whether in Alaska or anywhere across the country, she started using drugs. And eventually drugs took over her life completely. She dropped out of high school and, in her words, quote, lived the life of an addict for 20 years, 2 decades, addicted to heroin and other drugs. She was arrested in 2005 for drug-related charges, and for years, again, like so many people that we're seeing in our country, ping-ponged in and out of prison, until she was released on June 1st, 2011. So, tough life, tough experiences. But here's the good news. What has she done with that life since? She's been clean and sober ever since, which, as we all know, is not easy. Takes courage, takes discipline. She credits her faith in the peer support community she was able to find once she was released from prison, and the kind of support that she is now offering to hundreds of women across Alaska. Shortly after her release from prison, Kara began to attend meetings led by 2 women she knew had been part of prison ministries. These women, Ellen Campbell and Ramona Engel, had an idea of opening up a place for women who were getting out of prison and needed help, transitioning into freedom. They needed help. Many were going through their own addiction challenges. They thought Kara would be the perfect person to direct the program. And as all Alaskans know now, they thought right, because she was that person. Mr. President, In 2015, the transition house that Kara and others founded, called Haven House in Juneau, Alaska, opened its doors. So far, 33 women have gone through the program and only 2 have reoffended, which is a remarkable record and success story. Kara is also involved in so many other programs throughout the state. There's actually too many to name, but let me just give you a few highlights. This is just a few of the highlights of what she's done. She's the co-chair of the Juneau Reentry Coalition. She's the co-founder of the Juneau Recovery Community Organization. In 2016, she was a fellow of Just Leadership USA. She's an active member of the Juneau Homeless Housing Coalition, Juneau's Disability Abuse Response Team, Juneau's Recovery Coaches Advisory Board, Alaska's statewide Recidivism Reduction Task Force, and the list is a lot longer than that, Mr. President. That just gives you a sense of how involved she is and how much she cares on these issues. Last year, for all her work, she was awarded the prestigious FBI Director's Award in recognition of her outstanding service to the advancement of justice. And in the middle of all this, in the middle of this hard work, she went back to school to finish her associate's degree and was able to be reunited with her 3 children. So, on paper, and in a speech like this certainly all looks impressive, but I'm here to tell you, Mr. President, there's nothing like hearing her story in person. Let me take you back to a meeting I had in 2015. I had just been elected. Kara and 7 other women, 3 of whom were recently out of prison and were the first residents of Haven House, came to my office. They were in D.C. to attend a march to combat addiction, and they were trying to get members of the Senate and the House to support the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act, co-sponsored and led by my good friend from Ohio, Rob Portman, and my good friend from Rhode Island, Senator Whitehouse. They came to my office, Mr. President, and to this day is certainly one of the most impactful meetings I've had in the Senate. A meeting where they were all very honest, very open about what they had been through, and to be perfectly blunt, these women had been through hell. And they talked about it with courage and grace and dignity. And they talked about how Americans, Alaskans, were suffering through this addiction, opioid and heroin addiction in particular, and how they needed help, and how they needed federal legislation. Their honesty and resiliency and courage is something that I was so impressed by, so moved by. In many ways, it was a gift for me as a senator to see this and try just a little bit to understand this. And after I heard these stories, and this meeting went very, very long, and started reading more and more about this crisis as impacting all of our states and certainly many parts of Alaska, I told my staff, we have to focus on this. We have to focus on this. So 2 years, what we did, we convened a summit in our state. It was called the Wellness Summit, Conquering the Opioid Crisis. And Kara and her colleagues who came to see me, they inspired all of us to do this. And in many ways, they were the stars of this event. They told the Alaskans who gathered there their stories, their challenges. We talked about all kinds of issues, federal, state, local. We brought federal officials to this summit. The Surgeon General of the United States came. The Deputy Secretary of HHS came. Statewide officials, local officials, all there gathering saying, hey, we can do this. We can tackle this. Let's work together. There's hope. There's hope because of people like Kara. Now, Mr. President, you know I have a big state in terms of territory, but it's not a big state in terms of population. Over 500 people showed up at this summit, with several hundred more online, to listen and get ideas and give us ideas and get inspiration from people like Kara. 500. That's a lot for Alaska. Inspired by that summit and people like Kara, we are organizing another summit, actually tomorrow, in Anchorage, the Wellness Summit 2.0. This event will also bring together, like we did before, a number of federal, state, and local stakeholders to discuss not only the addiction epidemic, but also issues relating to drug trafficking and, unfortunately, the associated crime wave that is hitting many of the communities in Alaska and victimizing many Alaskans. And again, Kara will be one of the people in front of hundreds presenting at the summit. Again, she will likely talk about her own experiences and inspire people and give them courage that they can get through what they're going through, and talk about how successful peer-to-peer work has been for her and the other women she has been working with. Whatever she talks about tomorrow, I know that she will bring courage and insights and internal fire, because she has it. She's been through a lot. She's a leader, and she's a leader by example. So, Mr. President, I just wanted to conclude by saying her work and the work of so many others on tackling this crisis and all the difficult side effects is so important. So, Kara, please keep it up. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for all the work you've done, your courage, your commitment, your inspiration, and of course, congratulations to you on being our Alaskan of the Week. I yield the floor.